A storm is coming back to Fairmont Crest, and this time, it's not just thunder that will break the silence. Secrets, lies, and betrayals are ready to explode in the newest episode of Beyond the Gates 2025. What began as a quiet moment of love between Ted and Leslie now spirals into a scandal that could destroy every name carved into the Dupree legacy. A single video threatens to shatter reputations, a missing USB could end careers, and a ghost thought long dead may be pulling the strings from the shadows. Who will rise when the truth burns through the glamour, and who will be consumed by it? Collision. Don't miss the storm that changes everything. Follow Beyond the Gates 2025 and uncover what really happened behind the golden doors of Fairmont Crest. The moment between Ted and Leslie, at first glance, seemed like a fleeting instant of vulnerability, yet it carried within it the seeds of a looming tragedy. Two people who once stood on opposite sides found themselves sitting together in the dimness of Fairmont Crest, unaware that everything behind that closed door was being quietly recorded. The very instant they let their guards down, when Leslie rested her head on Ted's shoulder in silence, became the evidence others would later exploit. Anita, guided by the instincts of a mother who had once been betrayed, sensed her daughter was walking a path of no return. She began to investigate, discovering suspicious transfers in Ted's accounts and growing convinced that his intentions went beyond love, that he wanted control of the Dupree Foundation, to which Leslie had access. Meanwhile, Nicole, still not officially divorced from Ted, received an anonymous video on her phone. Her jealousy didn't erupt in fury but hardened into a deadly calm. She planned to confront them both at the Dupree family's charity gala, where Ted and Leslie intended to reveal their relationship. At the same time, Danny, fighting to regain control of the Fairmont Crest project, learned that Ted had secretly collaborated with Randy in a series of shady real estate deals. Slowly, it became clear that the beautiful moment between Ted and Leslie might not have been love at all, but a trap designed to test whether Leslie trusted him enough to hand over power. Yet Ted had no idea Leslie knew everything. She wasn't naive, she was testing whether he had even a shred of sincerity left. Leslie had planted a copy of the transaction files on Ted's computer, waiting for him to slip so she could unlock a larger plan, one meant to protect the Dupree legacy from men like him. But tragedy struck when that data was stolen by a third party, possibly Doug, the man presumed dead, or Joey, who owed Ted a favor. What began as psychological warfare turned into a struggle for control. Leslie started to suspect Ted wasn't acting alone, that a hidden force stood behind him seeking to seize Fairmont Crest itself. As rumors spread, Danny accidentally discovered Leslie was pregnant, a revelation that could destroy Ted if exposed, since it coincided with his still intact marriage to Nicole. The question loomed, was Leslie truly carrying Ted's child, or was this a calculated distraction to maintain her advantage? The atmosphere at Fairmont Crest grew suffocating, elegant gatherings became battlegrounds of fear and deceit. Anita tried to intervene but found herself entangled in the financial investigation Ted and Leslie had started. Every trail led to a mysterious document signed DM, perhaps Doug, or someone impersonating him. Amid the chaos, Ted received an envelope containing photos of him and Leslie together, along with a single line, "Everything has a price." He realized someone was watching, and that the most beautiful moment of his life had turned into a weapon poised to destroy him. Doubt began to consume him, he questioned everyone, even Leslie. Sleepless nights followed, haunted by her voice echoing in his mind as he tried to discern truth from manipulation. On the other side, Leslie, too, began to waver. Had she let emotion cloud her plan for revenge? Could love truly survive in a world where everything served an agenda? These questions sparked a chain of new events. If Doug was alive, would he return to seek justice or annihilate what remained of the Dupree dynasty? If Nicole released the video to the media, could Leslie salvage her reputation, or would she forever be branded a homewrecker? And if Ted truly loved her, would he sacrifice his power and ambition to protect that love, or retreat to the cold, calculating path he knew best? Above all, was that beautiful moment they shared ever real love, or merely the prologue to a tragedy closing in around them? The storm that night swept across Fairmont Crest like a dark omen, foreshadowing a night of collapse. In the radiant glow of the charity gala, every gaze was fixed on Leslie, who entered beside Ted with such poised perfection that the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Yet behind her calm smile raged a storm of conflict. No one knew that inside Leslie's clutch lay a USB drive containing a copy of the Dupree Foundation's financial records, evidence that could destroy Ted completely. As the piano music drifted through the hall, Ted gently squeezed her hand, his eyes gleaming as if to say the past had been forgiven and that they could start anew. But at that very moment, upstairs, Nicole walked slowly down the marble corridor, her black dress sweeping the floor, her hand gripping a phone that played the video of Ted and Leslie together. Without a word, she forwarded the file to Danny, the events coordinator, and waited for chaos to begin. The sound of shattering glass broke through the music, freezing the room in place. The massive screen behind the stage suddenly flickered to life, and in that instant, the image of Ted and Leslie appeared sitting close together in a dimly lit room, their eyes locked in fragile trust. The hall fell into dead silence. Anita froze, Danny stood motionless, and Ted turned to Leslie, who looked equally horrified. Whispered murmurs began to ripple through the crowd like a rising storm. Someone accused Leslie of betraying Nicole, another insisted Ted had manipulated her with his power. No one knew the truth, but the image alone was enough to ignite a scandal that could ruin them both. Leslie stepped back, her eyes wide with panic, then, just as quickly, she steadied herself. She knew she had to choose, stay silent and watch Ted fall, or reveal everything she knew about the illegal transfers, about the scheme Ted and Randy had orchestrated to seize the Dupree Foundation. But before she could reach the podium, Ted moved first. He gripped the microphone, his voice gravelly and raw. "There's nothing false in that video. But love can't be edited." The statement only fueled the uproar. Anita left her seat and rushed toward her daughter, while Nicole stood at the top of the staircase, her gaze cold as steel. When security tried to cut the feed, Danny ordered them to leave it on. She wanted the truth exposed. Amid the confusion, Leslie suddenly pulled the USB drive from her bag and placed it on the podium, declaring she had proof she hadn't been deceived, that Ted had exploited her trust to legalize the transfer of the foundation funds into his own name. The noise dissolved into absolute silence. Ted froze, the world collapsing around him. Nicole smirked, descending the staircase with a slow, deliberate grace, her eyes filled with both pity and disdain. But before she could speak, the lights went out. A small explosion echoed from the sound system, followed by a cloud of thick white smoke that swallowed the room whole. When the lights flickered back on, the USB was gone. On the podium lay only a sheet of paper with scrawled words, "Justice belongs to no one." Neither Ted nor Leslie could comprehend what had just happened. Anita pulled her daughter close as Danny shouted for security to check the systems. In the chaos, Leslie caught sight of a tall figure slipping out the back door, a man in a long coat, his silhouette chillingly familiar. He looked exactly like Doug, the man everyone believed was dead. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Was Doug still alive, orchestrating everything from the shadows? Or was someone impersonating him to settle an old score? That night, Fairmont Crest ceased to be a place of blessings and laughter. It became a silent battlefield between people who once loved each other. Leslie stood on the veranda, the wind whipping through her hair, staring into the darkness where Doug had vanished. Ted approached behind her, but this time, no hands reached out to touch. Between them hung a silence heavier than any words, for they both knew the beautiful moment they once shared had become the beginning of an unforgivable nightmare. The next morning, under a gray, heavy sky, Fairmont Crest no longer resembled the sanctuary of luxury it once was. The lights were out, the iron gate stayed shut, and the first headlines began to spread, calling it the greatest scandal in Dupree family history. Yet beneath the storm of gossip and speculation, there remained gaps no one could fill. The missing USB carried secrets of shady financial dealings, the leaked video was merely the surface of something far deeper, and the name Doug began reappearing in confidential reports like a ghost resurrected. No one knew where he was or whether he was even alive. Leslie was suspended from the foundation board, Ted was under investigation for financial misconduct, and Nicole vanished. She left behind only an empty phone and a voicemail on Ted's line. "I just want you to know justice, sometimes, has to hurt to be seen." Leslie lived quietly in a lakeside house, haunted each night by the sound of wind hissing through her window like the echo of an unfinished past. She knew whoever stole the USB was still out there, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Inside her encrypted drive lay a single hidden file labeled gate_truth_final. She had never opened it, afraid that once she did, the final truth would end everything. Meanwhile, Ted drove away from Fairmont Crest without a word, his car slicing through the night toward nowhere. On the back seat rested a worn leather briefcase, and inside it, a printed photo of Leslie, taken from the mysterious envelope he once received, with the haunting words scrawled on the back, "Everything has a price." As dawn broke, an anonymous message was delivered simultaneously to Anita, Danny, and Leslie's phones. Only 2 words appeared on the screen: "Round 2." No one knew who sent it, or where it came from, but everyone understood one thing: this was far from over. Because at Fairmont Crest, truth is only a thin veil over a deeper corruption, and sometimes, the most terrifying secrets are not the ones revealed, but the ones still waiting in the dark.